Welcome back to Germany and welcome back to my channel. I really appreciate you being here with me. The last few days we've been locked in rain here, and today's the first day that we've had, I don't want to call it clear skies, but we've at least not had rain. So here I am outside trying to get a video put together for you. And now that the weather's clear, you can see there are an awful lot of people out here enjoying this park. This park is in downtown Stuttgart, right next to the Hauptbahnhof, the main train station. And it's always, there's always people here. It's a beautiful park that stretches for several kilometers down to the river, and then it takes a northerly bent, and that's where the city museum is at. Not the city museum, the city zoo. Definitely worth seeing, definitely worth walking. This happens to be a place that I frequent. So I want to thank you for the many emails that I've received over the past few weeks. And in the responses that I've sent to some of you, I've said, as much as I appreciate you contacting me and asking me questions, I need you to kind of narrow your questions down to make them a lot more specific. When you say, hey, you know, I'm thinking about coming to Europe, or hey, I'm thinking about changing something here about my situation in the US, what can I do about it? It's too broad for me to answer. So it helps when there are very specific questions to answer. Now, as I received those answers, or excuse me, as I received those questions, I found that they fell into certain categories and that there were certain questions that were repeating themselves frequently. That gave me an idea for several videos that I'm going to begin, and I'm going to begin the first one right now. Today I want to discuss with you in two parts how to get to Europe. Now, in looking at going to Europe, we had to decide how I was going to get there. There were no direct flights from where I live in Florida, where I lived, past tense, in Florida, to the city I was trying to get to in Germany, which is Hamburg. I have several German citizen friends that live in Hamburg, and they had been telling me for a while, you need to get out of the US and come to Europe and start over. Leave that nonsense behind, come have a new life, because people in Germany see the world very differently than Americans do. So my goal was to get to the city of Hamburg. How to get there? No direct flights from Florida. So we looked at different hubs that we could go through. I could go through London, England, and that was absolutely off the table. I will tell you now that the UK is basically the 51st state of the USA. You're not going to go through England and not have problems, because they're going to check your manifest, they're going to check your passport, and if they find out you're a convicted sex offender, you're going right back to the US on the next plane. And of course the Americans will be waiting there with handcuffs because you left the country without permission as a sex offender. England, off the board. But that left me personally with the options of Oslo, Norway, and Denmark, Copenhagen. Both of those were places I wanted to visit. So what I ultimately decided to do was I boarded a plane in Fort Lauderdale at 11 o'clock at night. I flew to Oslo, Norway, stayed in Oslo a little bit, caught another flight to Copenhagen, Denmark, stayed there a little while, loved it, loved both those cities. They are absolutely 100% worthy of being on your visit list. I then caught a bullet train, one of the high-speed rail trains that we call in Germany ICE for Intercity Express. ICE, those are your trains that are traveling at 255 kilometers an hour. And I took the train from Copenhagen, Denmark, across the Danish peninsula into northern Germany, where I was met by some friends in the Hauptbahnhof in Hamburg. Again, Hauptbahnhof being the main train station. That's how I entered Europe. Let me point out that when I left Fort Lauderdale, I was actually close to panicking. I was certainly scared, because I thought that the first time they checked my passport, they would run it against a database, see that I was a sex offender, and that they would stop me right there at the airport. So when I handed my passport to the American customs agent, I'm watching his body language, of course, but he literally just opened my passport, looked at my name, looked at my picture, made sure that it matched me, handed my passport back, and wished me a good flight. That was it. Went through security, boarded my plane, took off into the night sky, flew over the Atlantic, and the next morning we were landing in Oslo, Norway. When I got off the plane in Oslo, of course I went through customs control and had my bags run through the x-ray, but when the customs agent in Norway looked at my passport, saw I was American, he flipped it open, looked for the seal to make sure that it was a legitimate passport, ran it through the scanner, handed it back to me, and wished me a good stay in Europe. He did not ask me any of the traditional questions that you would expect. He did not ask me how was I going to support myself. He did not ask me how long I was staying. He did not ask me what the purpose of my trip was. Nothing like that. You're American, valid passport, welcome to Europe, have a great time. Now it's important to note that going from Oslo to Copenhagen, there was no passport control. It is considered a domestic flight, no different than flying from Atlanta to Miami. Same thing, when I took the train from Denmark into Germany, there were no guards at the gate, at the border, which I kind of half expected. There were no policemen checking passport, nothing like that. It was literally like transferring from Georgia into Florida. There was nothing. It was that easy. So that brings me to you. Let me point out something I did not know ahead of time. First of all, as an American, you can come to Europe for 90 days without a visa. You do not need a visa, you simply need to get on a plane and get over here. That's it. That's it. Now, they may ask you what your purpose of your trip is. Probably they won't. They may ask you, do you have health insurance? Because if you get injured in Germany, the government doesn't want to pay for your operation, your medication, whatever. So you need some kind of proof that you have insurance. Now, once you're in Germany, it's very easy to purchase insurance, and I'm going to make a whole different video on health insurance here and the healthcare system. Absolutely fascinating, and not what you were led to believe by all that nonsense you hear on partisan TV when the Republicans claim this and the Democrats claim that. No, the healthcare system is very different than that. Much better than what I thought it was going to be. Anyways, back to border control. They may ask you, do you have money to support yourself? But you're going to say I'm an American with credit cards, and that's going to be the end of that discussion. So you're not going to have any trouble whatsoever. Now let me also point out that I've had quite a few family members fly over here to visit me, and they had now they flew directly into Germany, and they did not have the problems at all. They had no problems. They were not asked, what's the purpose? They were not asked about money. They were not asked about health insurance. They were simply allowed in. Now, I'm going to put a map up here for you. These are the countries that are part of this thing called the Schengen area. Once you land in one country, in my instance, Norway, you are then allowed to transfer between all these other countries with no border control, no passport control, nothing. It is literally like driving from one state in the US to another. There's no control whatsoever. So if you enter Oslo, Norway, as you can see, you can go all the way down to Italy if that's what you want to do. You land in Paris, you can drive all the way to Poland. Nobody's going to stop you. Nobody's going to ask you what you're doing. The thing is simply to get to Europe, land on European soil, and you're good for 90 days. Now, the next logical question is going to be, well, what happens after 90 days? If I want to stay longer, what do I have to do? That's a topic for another video, and very likely that's going to be my next video. Now, I'll point out that tomorrow morning I'm taking a train to Munich, and I'm going to be enjoying Oktoberfest with some of my family members that are flying in. No, actually, I think they're already here. I think they've already landed. But we're going to be meeting in Munich and enjoying Oktoberfest. So I won't be filming tomorrow, but over the next few days, I absolutely will. I hope this video was useful to you. I hope it provided some good information. I hope it gave you food for thought. But if you have any questions for me concerning leaving the United States and getting into Europe proper, then by all means contact me via email. My email address is readily available on this channel. In the meantime, I'm going to thank you for spending these few minutes with me, and I'm going to encourage you that if you're not happy about your situation, then do something to change it. Until next time, cheers.